And my next guests now are Shiloh Thurman and William Newby. Shiloh's the museum director at Woolaroc. William is their mountain man camp leader. Gentlemen, good to have you both here.
Well, thank you for having us.
I'll get to you in just a minute. Just relax. Tell us a little bit about your role.
Yeah, so I'm the museum director out there at Woolaroc. I've been museum director for going on somewhere around 10 years now, and I facilitate all the temporary art exhibits that come in and kind of oversee the museum just in general.
Where is it?
So Woolaroc's just outside of Bartlesville. We're roughly about 12 miles outside of Bartlesville to the south of there.
And short description of what is it?
Yeah, so Woolaroc was established in around 1925 by Frank Phillips. It was kind of his retreat. He grew up in an age whenever the Wild West was still alive. And so he wanted to have a place that really captured that essence. And so that's what Woolaroc was created as. It currently has his original lodge, his museum. It's a wilderness preserve as well, basically. We keep bison out there. We have longhorn elk. So, you have the museum, the lodge, the wildlife preserve, and then we also have a reenactment area too, living history component.
You had the president visit.
We did. That was back whenever Frank and Jane were still alive. So Harry Truman came out at one point in time and presented Jane with a photograph of himself and signed it. So that's actually on display in her bedroom.
In his book, and I'm going to mention my friend Michael Wallace. The book is Way Down Yonder in the Indian Nation. He devotes a full chapter to the ranch. And there's one thing that caught my eye when he talked about the outlaw feeds where the lawmen and the outlaws came together. No arrests were made. Everybody ate as one group, and they had buffalo. They had anything you could possibly want. They had they had pork, they had buffalo, they had beef, and nobody went hungry.
No, not at all. This was, going on from like the mid to late 20s up until the early 30s. And it was called the Cow Thieves and Outlaws Reunion. And we actually still do that to this day. It's not quite the same. It's our annual fundraiser now. But during Frank's time, he would bring in people from town, outlaws, lawmen, his investors from the East Coast, because it was kind of a marketing thing as well for him. But he had a couple of rules. You had to check your gun at the gate, and then the outlaws were allowed 24 hours after the party to get away before the lawmen were allowed to chase them. So, it was quite the shindig back then.
Oh, man, that is so cool. Shiloh, what are you?
Well, I am the head of the Mountain Man Camp. We're portraying the 1820s to 1840s fur trade. And so whenever you come down to see me there, whenever you come just past the first cattle guard and you look left, you're going to see a bunch of teepees and some horse camps. And that's where you're come down to see me. We open up March 19th. The first time we're run all the way through the summer till September 2nd. We have some bigger dates that are coming up for the spring and fall rendezvous, and that's where we have a bunch of camps out. That'll be April 11th and 12th and October 3rd and 4th. And so that's where you'll have about 100 to 150 mountain man camps out there, anything for the fur trade. But during the regular summer, you come down and I'll show you kind of how to throw a tomahawk. You end up shooting a long gun. And I'll tell you the expansion and how that fits in with Woolaroc as far as keeping that Western culture and heritage alive, just like what Frank wanted to do. And so more of a hands-on, experience with that. And of course, yard and telling as well. We might tell a couple of stories, but they're all true. They're all true.
Oh, of course. You wouldn't twist it in that, would you?
No, sir, not at all.
What kind of piece are you carrying?
So this right here is a Northwest trade gun. This is what they would be, a lot of the mountain men would be carrying. It would be a flintlock. So you have a piece of flint right here that will strike the prison. That will put that spark in that flash pan. And then you better hope your powder is dry. So on them cold, frosty mornings or a rainy day, you better keep your powder dry.
Which is where the old saying comes from.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. Then, of course, that'll put that spark in through that barrel and run. And so that being said, this is a smooth bore. And so there's no rifling in there to give you accuracy. So you better be a cut above to be a mountain man, because that ball, once it goes down there, it's just wherever you pointed. And so it's a lot of fun, and a lot of people that never even got to handle a gun like this come out to Woolaroc and get to handle one of these, and we try to get everybody through as much as we can. A lot of it is how outnumbered I am.
Is there a fee to go to Woolaroc?
There's one fee, but it covers going to the lodge, the museum, things that are going on out there. Like sometimes we'll have like a kids fest or something like that. It also covers going to the mountain man camp as well.
Mm-hmm. Do folks understand when they go to Woolaroc, they're stepping back in time?
You know, I don't think initially, if it's their first visit, they really think of that to begin with. You know, people typically, if they're planning a visit to Woolaroc, they allow for about an hour of time, typically, is what I've discovered. But really, it takes 4 hours to a full day, because you are stepping back in time, and there's so much to experience because you're completely encompassed by that. You just have so much time that's spent at the museum, at the mountain man camp, and so on. It takes a serious amount of time to go through all of Woolaroc offers.
I'm going to direct this question at both of you because I'd like a reaction from both of you. Is the spirit of Frank alive and still out there?
So I think so. Frank, whenever he established Woolaroc, and then whenever they turned it over to, created a foundation, turned it over to the Board of Trustees, our mission is to preserve the history of the West, to educate and to entertain. Mm-hmm. And that was directly coming from Frank Phillips, and that's what he wanted Woolaroc to be. And I think that we still meet all of those criteria that he established that long ago.
I absolutely know so. It's one of those things, whenever you look what Frank wanted to set up and how the trustees are running it and how we have the leaders above us, what they're trying to hold on and keep that Western culture alive, to see, and it doesn't matter what age you are, you come out, you can see that spark. It doesn't matter if, Woolaroc's where I learned to appreciate paintings. Whenever I was a young kid, I never really looked at the paintings. But you look at those paintings and they come to life, and it captures that West. And then you come down to the mountain man camp and it brings it to life firsthand.
That's great. Jim Hamilton.
Yes. Jim Hamilton, we're actually having a tribute show dedicated to Jim Hamilton, who was a sculptor out of Pawhuska. He actually grew up as a rancher and then didn't start sculpting until later in life, in his mid-40s. And so we are in partnership with a local university, Oklahoma Wesleyan University, who actually have all these sculptures. There's going to be upwards of 30 to 40 pieces that are going to be featured in this show. And the opening for it, we have a members opening on March 27th with an opening to the public on March 28th.
Okay, and then they can get more by going to your website, right?
Yes, yeah, that'll all be featured on the website.
And what is your website?
It's www.woolaroc.org.
Guys, thank you for coming in.
Thank you for having
Thank you.
us.
I really appreciate it. And keep us posted. Keep us on your mailing list. Let us know what's going on out there, okay?
I will.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Maybe we can do this again.
that sounds great.
All right. We're going to take a short break. We'll be back with our final guest right after this.